There's probably not a more iconic audio brand in the United States than the 70-plus-year-old brand from Binghamton, New York, McIntosh. McIntosh gear not only sounds great, but it also has a look that music lovers all over the world have fallen in love with. While the McIntosh name probably brings to mind big amplifiers that take two people to move, today's review is on a relatively new and different product from McIntosh, a wireless speaker system that is compact in size, but still maintains the classic McIntosh appearance. The RS200 is a complete wireless speaker solution from McIntosh. All you need to add is a source for music, and you'll soon have room-filling McIntosh sound. And real quick before we get started, if you enjoy content like this and want more like it, check out our other videos and be sure to subscribe to our channel. We showcase the very best of the best when it comes to audio and video equipment and are always putting out new and exciting content. Now let's get into it. The elegant design of the McIntosh RS200 puts it head and shoulders above other units competing in this category. Of course, with the RS200's selling price of $3,000, it needed to stand out from the crowd. The RS200 was designed to fit on a shelf or tabletop and is almost 25 inches wide, a little over 12 inches deep, and about 5.5 inches tall. Anything built by McIntosh is built like a tank, so as you might expect, it weighs in at 30 pounds. The beautiful McIntosh blue meters and green logo behind glass have been a hallmark of McIntosh products for decades, and this tradition carries on with the RS200. Two large round knobs are on either side of the meters, which are then flanked by speakers on the ends. The top of the unit is a highly polished gloss black. There's a sculpted pedestal wrapped in grill cloth that elegantly raises it up off the solid aluminum base. The base itself is smaller than the main unit, which gives the RS200 a floating appearance. The feature set of the RS200 hits on just about everything anyone would want these days in an all-in-one wireless speaker solution. You'll have multiple ways to get music into it for great playback. The big two are Apple Airplay 2 and Bluetooth 5.0. McIntosh smartly went with the higher-end version of Bluetooth, Qualcomm's AdaptX HD, with low latency. They chose DTS Play-Fi as their streaming platform. Play-Fi supports almost all current streaming platforms and also gives you DLNA access to any music stored on your network. The RS200 has 4 favorite buttons on the top that allow you to store your favorite streaming services and then start them up with just the push of a button. There's an optical input which could support a CD transport, TV optical out, or anything else with an optical digital out. You'll get an analog input which would be great for either a turntable with a built-in phono preamp or a turntable rig with a separate phono preamp. The analog input is a stereo mini plug, so be aware you may need an adapter cable for most turntables. They even added a USB input for streaming music from your computer or laptop directly to the RS200. If you're a fan of Siri or Alexa, the RS200 is ready for you. While it does not have Alexa built in, you can designate it as your favorite speaker, so when Alexa hears you say, "Play this week's top hits," they will start playing on the RS200. One feature we really like is the ARC HDMI input. ARC stands for Audio Return Channel. Most newer TVs have an HDMI connection with the ARC label on it. This is a two-way HDMI connection capable of feeding audio back down the HDMI cable. The cool part about HDMI ARC is the TV remote takes over volume and mute on the connected unit, so your TV remote can do everything. Of course, if your TV is older and without ARC, you could use the optical input without the HDMI control. The RS200 also has a subwoofer out. And unlike a lot of units with a sub out that really don't do anything to the signal for the main unit, if you engage a sub on the RS200, special crossovers kick in so it no longer produces deep bass and all the deep bass is sent to the sub. This cleans up the mid-range on the RS200 for a great combination. There's even a trigger output if you wanted to power on a sub with a 12-volt trigger. The speaker configuration of the RS200 is also pretty cool. They use the same tweeters and mid-range drivers used in a lot of their high-performance speakers. There's one tweeter and 2 mid-range drivers per side. The woofer section works in mono, but there are 2 oval bass drivers in the cabinet which vent downward. Remember we talked about the floating aspect of the RS200? Raising the cabinet up just a little bit off a tabletop or shelf reduces a ton of cabinet interaction, giving the RS200 a very open sound without any added resonance from the cabinet. This also allowed McIntosh to vent the woofer cabinet down. The sloping edges of the pedestal help send the bass tones out into the room. There are 5 separate amps with a total of 650 watts of power. The tweeter on each side, the mid-range drivers on each channel, and the woofer enclosure all have separate power amps using electronic crossovers for perfectly clean sound. The woofer cabinet gets 250 of those 650 watts, with the rest divided up among the other drivers. McIntosh also elected to add an environmental switch, which allows you to fine-tune the RS200 to its surroundings. For those of you who know a little bit about acoustics, the room and its surfaces can have a big impact on the sound. McIntosh gives you 3 settings. The setting labeled free works when you have the RS200 on a small table not much bigger than the unit, with the table a little off the wall or further out into the room. There is a wall setting which you would use if the unit was close to a back wall. Finally, there's a table setting you should kick in if the unit is sitting on a larger flat surface. It's pretty easy to hear the differences these settings make with just the flick of a switch. McIntosh also future-proofed the RS200 as much as they could. It has the ability to do firmware updates through a USB service port on the rear of the unit. You really do get a lot of great technology and useful features in the RS200. While it's $3,000, we really could not think of anything missing from this great little all-in-one wireless speaker. Once we had things connected, we used Play-Fi to run through some of our favorite title selections. The first thing that struck us about the sound of the RS200 was it just sounded very natural and effortless. We suspect this is due to the large amount of power the unit has and the fact that it's essentially a tri-amp system with a separate amplifier for the tweeters, mid-ranges, and woofers. Systems like that always have a sound that just draws you in. The separation of individual voices and instruments was quite special, especially on an old Crosby Nash cut we tried where there are several layers of voices. When used as a soundbar, its effortless sound really shone through in portraying the emotions in the voices on the screen. We've heard soundbars that sounded bigger, but the tri-amp speakers really help you hear all of those subtle sounds that make it feel like you are there. It does an amazing job in this regard, especially if you add a subwoofer. The RS200 also did a good job filling up a roughly 20 by 20 foot room we were using at the time. If we had to pick an all-in-one unit for a personal office, small condo, or bedroom, this would be the ticket. No question about it. The sound it produces is just super pleasing to the ear, and it's one of the most beautiful pieces of audio gear we've ever played around with. While $3,000 is a lot of money to spend on an all-in-one unit, we don't think you'll find a better one than the RS200. It sounds as good as it looks, and you're buying into the legendary McIntosh brand while adding what many consider to be a work of art to your home or office. If you have any questions on the RS200 or any other audio gear, feel free to give us a call, chat online with one of our experts, or stop into our Raleigh or Charlotte, North Carolina locations. Thanks for watching.